These 100 marketing tips are worth more than a $100,000 college marketing degree. I basically failed English class, but yet was still able to make over $100,000 per month with all the marketing tips I'm showing you here in this video. So while your friends are drowning in student loan debt and all competing over $40,000 a year jobs, and don't forget begging for vacation days, you can be making more money in a month than most people do in a year. And throughout this entire video, I'm going to be breaking down the exact psychological triggers that drive 80% of sales, the exact 3-word phrase that makes any offer irresistible, and the counterintuitive pricing strategy that lets you charge more by offering less. So without any further ado, grab a pen and a notepad because you are going to need it. Here is the complete marketing education that they will never teach you in college. Tip number 1 is the power of great pacing. Look, when you are writing copy or writing business marketing materials, you don't want to make it look like a legal document, just blocky and huge and tons of text. Instead, you want to make use of the white space, meaning you want to leave it so that it's nice, spread out, and really easy and digestible. I'll give you an example. You don't want it to look like one of those really tiny Bibles, really small words, and you really have to do a lot of effort in order to read it. Instead, you just want it to be chill. You want a chill little document. What's super easy to read? Something like an email, or for example, something like a text to a friend. Tip number 2 is features versus benefits. So features, for example, is what the product has, but benefits is the things that will actually help the consumer do. For example, the iPod didn't sell that it had 5 gigabytes of storage. Instead, it sold that you can hold over 1,000 songs in your pocket. The lesson here is that people buy outcomes and transformations, not specifics. So always lead with benefits over features. Tip number 3, the WIIFM principle, which is what's in it for me. Every piece of content should answer this almost immediately. You hook readers in with the value proposition of what they're going to get out of the video. Because also, let's be real, nobody cares about you. Nobody wants to hear your video talking about yourself, talking about your business. Instead, they want to know exactly why they should keep listening or reading if it's an email. But here's where most people, especially copywriters, screw this up completely. Because tip number 4 is to use power words. For example, step by step and breakthrough, grab people's attention because it's more specific and it actually triggers their emotions. The media uses this all of the time in order to grab your own attention. So the next time you read anything like a headline, make sure you look out for those power words. Tip number 5 is the art of open loops. Now this is pure psychological manipulation in the best way. Introduce the idea without immediately revealing the answer. For example, this is the 13-second habit that is keeping you broke, but more on that in a moment. This creates curiosity and actually gives people a reason as to keep reading. An easy way I like to think of intrigue is that you are creating an itch and they're literally uncomfortable until they scratch it, aka understand what the last answer, whatever the thing you want to talk about is. Tip number 6 is target avatar versus target audience. So for example, target audience is broad. It's a whole collection of people. People who want to make money online, people who want to get a girlfriend, people who want to get in shape. But target avatar, on the other hand, is specific. For example, Marcus, he's 28, he makes $4,000 per month, and he works as an accountant. Now, the trick here is to write to one specific person instead of just a crowd. And the reason why it works so well is because when you address one specific person in one ad or email or video sales letter, what you're going to do is get way more specific, and then they're going to feel like you're actually talking to them. So they'll think more of, this is actually for me and not just for everybody. And that is when they'll want to buy. If you want to see this in action, you might say something like this. Are you tired of getting clients? Is a more broad way to say something. But are you tired of sending 50 outreaches per day only to get ghosted and nobody actually reply to your outreach? That's something that's a little bit more specific because you know exactly who you're talking to. Tip number 7 is to show and don't tell. Don't just claim that your product works or works the best. You got to actually prove it to people because it's 2025 and there's so many people saying so much things online that you got to back up all of your claims. I'm talking screenshots. You want testimonials, you want case studies, you want videos with people, etc. Because social proof is infinitely more powerful than any claim you can make. For example, in the beginning of this video, and a lot of my videos, I show you proof of me making money, people who listen to me, or people who are my students, or people that I help make money as well. So you get to see the actual proof that I have, that my students have, that other people have as well, to back up all my claims, which really increases the perceived value of my information, rather than if I was just some guy who is regurgitating what Alex Hormozi is saying, for example. Tip number 8 is the qualifying question. So you can actually immediately filter out for your ideal customer just through one qualifying question. For example, if you're a bodybuilder getting ready for a show and you're trying not to binge eat everything in sight, This will make the right people feel seen while weeding out all the people who don't fall into that category. Tip number 9 is to avoid being salesy. So things like using corporate language or things that are usually said in sales usually bring up people's sales card. So for example, in an email or an ad, you would address them as you or talk about the actual reader rather than saying, well, our clients trust us, and you start talking about yourself and talking about your programs, your courses, your products. Instead, you want to talk about the person who's reading, right? Like you're talking to a friend over coffee. Tip number 10 is the value stack psychology. So this is where you list all the individual prices of what something's worth before you give the final price. And this generates so much money that it feels illegal to know. And I'll leave an example right here on screen as well. And this simply creates a massive perception of value. Tip number 11 is scarcity versus urgency. Scarcity equals that there is a limited quantity, meaning there's like only 50 spots available. But urgency means limited time. So offer expires midnight Friday. So both of them create FOMO, but they just work a little bit differently. But disclaimer, never fake urgency or scarcity because again, it just sounds salesy and silly. Tip number 12 is the challenge belief hook. So this is simply where you start by challenging a commonly held belief. For example, starting a business is the worst thing you can do if you want to make money online in 2025. It immediately grabs people's attention because that's exactly what they thought you had to do. And now they are going to be waiting around until you give them the answer as to why you think that or say that. But you got to actually follow it with really, really good justification. Otherwise, you're going to lose credibility and be that guy who just says anything. Tip number 13 is price anchoring. This is simple. You mention a higher price before you reveal the actual price. For example, this product is usually $5,000, but you can get it today for $3,000. The reason why this works so well is because people don't buy things for what they're worth. They buy things for less than what they think that it's worth. So if they think it's worth $10, but it is $10, they're not going to buy it. But if they think it's worth $20, but it's on sale for $10, then they have a much higher chance of purchasing it. Tip number 14 is the crossroads close. Very simple. You show people that they have two choices on exactly what to do next. So you can try to lose the same 10 pounds over and over and over again, just like you've already been doing, or you can decide to actually take action and make a change. This forces decision making and shows people where they'll actually be if they don't decide to take action on whatever it is that you're telling them to do. Tip number 15 is crafting amazing email subject lines, because the subject line determines if your email is even going to get opened or not. So make sure to keep them short, intriguing, and benefits focused. Avoid spam words and trigger words, and make sure you take advantage of the preview text as well as the subject line. It's understanding the difference between problem aware and problem unaware. So problem aware people, for example, know that they have a problem, but they're just unaware of the solution. Problem unaware, on the other hand, doesn't even know that they have a problem to begin with. For example, people who are completely problem unaware shouldn't even be marketed to in the first place. It's like if someone is completely happy with their 9-to-5 job, they're making decent money, and you say, okay, yeah, but you actually need to start an online business. And they're like, well, I don't want to start an online business because I don't have those problems at all. Those are the types of people you don't even want to advertise to, for example, depending on what your actual offer is. But people who are problem unaware need to become solution aware before they ever buy your product. So for example, they know that they have a problem, but you have to educate them on what the solution is. Tip number 17 is understanding hard sell versus soft sell. A soft sell is a subtle and value first approach. Hard sell is way more direct and urgency driven. This is huge because a cold audience, meaning people who don't know you as well, are definitely going to want soft sells first before your hard sells. Tip number 18 is to use unique mechanisms. This is when you give your method or system a special name that gives people a hint of what it actually is and how it works. So for example, I created a gigantic Google document with all of my best Instagram openers and outreach methods and email templates. And I didn't just call it an outreach doc. I called it the Client Getting Mastery Manual. And this takes any advice or method and actually creates curiosity around it and also improves its perceived value. Tip number 19 is bullets versus fascinations. So bullets are short, sharp, and direct benefits of something. And this makes them really easy to digest and read as well. Fascinations, on the other hand, are a type of bullet. They start with benefit, then they go to intrigue, and then they give you a little bit of proof. So instead of saying something like learn email marketing, you might say, this is the psychological hack that makes people read every single word, and it's used by $10 million companies. Tip 20 is the moral dilemma framework. This is where you present the internal conflict inside of the reader's mind. And the reason why is because it shows that you understand exactly what they're going through. So you know you should be making money online, and you know you should be improving your skill, but there's something stopping you. And that is you're afraid to go all in on a skill because you're not really sure which is the best skill to master. Creating an emotional connection with your viewers and showing them that you know exactly what they're going through is one of the biggest parts of marketing in general. Okay, here we are again. Same video, new day, but let's run it. Tip number 21 is understanding above the fold. Because what people see before they start scrolling is crucial because it's going to determine whether they're going to stay on the page or decide to bounce. This is why you want your above the fold on any landing page to be absolute fire. You want it to be refined because that's where the huge chunk of results are going to come from. It doesn't matter what's at the bottom of the page if they don't get past the above the fold. Also, side tip, mobile users see even less, so make sure you optimize for mobile as well. Tip number 22 is to understand click rate versus click-through rate, or click rate versus CTR. Click rate is the total clicks divided by all the people who actually saw what your marketing is, and click-through rate is clicks divided by total impressions. Now, CTR can be misleading because it doesn't equal actual views. So focus on engagement metrics that lead to conversions because that is where the money is. Tip number 23, Michael Jordan, is the multiple call to action strategy. This is where you include a CTA or a call to action early on in the video or your content, and you also include another one somewhere else in your content too. The first CTA catches people who are eager to actually take action or to buy. And the second one converts the people who need a little bit more information before they can commit to clicking on whatever it is that you are selling or telling them to do. And if you're writing something even longer like a landing page or a sales page, there's usually CTAs peppered out throughout the whole page itself. Tip number 24 is to use swipe files. Really simple. You just save effective copy that you encounter. If you're scrolling through Instagram, you see an ad that really hits, then you want to save that to your swipe file. But once you have hundreds of pieces of awesome copy, then you can get inspiration from them. Just make sure you don't just copy the actual words themselves, but copy the ideas behind the words and what makes the ads themselves work. Tip number 25 is understanding the difference between email automations and email sequences. So sequences are a linear progression. You get email 1, email 2, and then email 3, and that's just how it goes. Automations, on the other hand, are action-based. So for example, if someone opens an email, they're gonna get a different email versus the people who haven't opened the previous email. So think of it kind of like a choose your own adventure. This makes it so that you can send people emails that are completely tailored to them. So your email marketing is just gonna get way better results. All right, we're 25 tips down. So make sure you go down below and smash the like button because honestly, I haven't even gotten started. So let's keep it rolling. Tip number 26 is the perplexing question technique. This is where you compare two different scenarios with two different outcomes that makes people think. So a couple of easy ways to do this is, why is it that X, but even though Y? Or if X, then why does Y exist? An example. Why does it seem like some people are just good at everything? Like we all know that one dude who just picks up a tennis racket for the first time and he's the absolute killer. Yet other people have to go and do something for months and months on end without seeing barely any progress. Well, the answer is this. This is just another way to create intrigue and curiosity because people want to know the answer. Tip number 27 is to overcome bounce rate on landing pages. So a high bounce rate, meaning a lot of people leaving as soon as they get to the page, indicates a poor message market fit. Now, in reality, it could mean a lot of different things are wrong. So you want to test different headlines, different layouts, different VSLs, and just different things above the fold, essentially. Tip number 28 is understanding the cost to acquire a customer, aka your CAC. So for example, it is the total amount of money that you have to spend in order to get a customer. So for example, it might cost you $500 in ad spend on average to get a customer that gives you $1,000. They have $1,000 LTV. And now your ROAS, your return on your ad spend, is to 1. So now you know all the marketing abbreviations. Another quick tip, a lot of people don't realize that organic marketing also has a cost to acquire customers as well. You might think it's $0 because they're getting customers for free, quote unquote, on Instagram, but then you also have to factor in the cost of marketing on Instagram, the cost of people writing the content, the cost of whoever is actually making the content, what does their time cost? So every customer costs something, and understanding cost will give you a better understanding of how much you're actually making versus how much you are spending. And as always, profit is just extremely important to know in business. Anyways, tip 29 is the value ladder strategy. Very simple. It's when you start with a low cost / free offer, then you gradually increase the price on the back end offers. So for example, somebody might offer a free guide or a free resource or a free tool, and then they might also have a $47 product, maybe then a $300 product, then a $2,000 product, and then maybe a $10,000 product. This way, you can maximize the people's lifetime value, and they might just not be ready to spend $2,000 with you. So they might start at $47. And then once they're blown away by the value in that, then they're going to be way more likely to buy something for even more money. For example, you see Rolexes that can be worth $10,000, then you see some that can be worth over $500,000. Tip 30 is email deliverability. Your emails are going to be worthless if they hit people's spam folders instead of their primary folders in Gmail. Why? Because on average, emails that land in spam get less than 5% open rate. To put that in perspective, if your client has 100,000 person email list, then only 5,000 people are going to open that email. And it's essentially just throwing money in the dumpster because those people who signed up, who want to hear from you and see your emails, are now never going to see them. So you want to make sure you have a good email deliverability. Really easy. You want to monitor your sender reputation. You want to avoid spam words, and you want to stop sending emails to people who never open them. Tip number 31 is to understand A/B testing and do it a lot. So some general rules of thumb is that you're always going to want to A/B split test. You can do this in most softwares. You put on A/B split test, and now let's say you have two different headlines. If 100 people come and visit your site, 50 people are going to see headline A and 50 people are going to see headline B. You're going to be able to track the data and see exactly with empirical evidence which headline is performing better. One more rule of thumb is you're only going to want to test one thing at a time, because if you test a whole bunch of different things at one time, you're not going to know what actually drove the results and what didn't actually matter. Tip number 32 is using the not statement technique. This is where you tell people what the solution is not about, because once you are breaking down what they think it's going to be, it builds intrigue. For example, I'm going to tell you exactly how you can make more money as a salesperson. It's not about getting a better script. It's not about getting more sales training. And it's not about learning better objection handling. Well, now people are left wondering, well, what is it going to be about? Tip number 33 is understanding outbound versus inbound marketing. Very simple. Outbound is when you initiate the first message, and inbound is when they initiate the first message or action. Now, the best marketers and businesses usually imply some of both. And the reason why is because when you're doing outbound, you have a much wider selection of people to choose from. Where if you're just waiting for people to come to you, some months might be really slow, some months might be really fast, and you might get a lot of results. But it's best to unlock both, because then you have both streams of revenue working for you. Tip number 34 is return on ad spend, or ROAS. So very simple. This is the money that you generated from ads divided by what you spent on the ads. So in general, you want a minimum of a 3-to-1 ROAS when you're running ads for a business. This is so that they can be profitable after expenses. In the real world, that would be like spending $1,000 to get a $3,000 client. Tip number 35 is to understand churn rate. So this is the percentage of buyers who stop buying over time. And the problem is that high churn rate kills business profitability. And the reason why it's so important is because it's often cheaper to retain customers and keep them paying over time than it is to always go out and get new customers, because that's always going to cost you time and money to do. Tip number 36 is to use the curiosity gap method. Create a gap between what people do know and what people want to know. So for example, the weird morning habit that burns belly fat in the first 15 minutes per day. Now, do you see how that could spike people's curiosity? And so I don't give the answer in the headline, but I make the payoff worth the wait. Tip number 37 is understanding different types of social proof. So for example, there are many ways to improve your credibility. And a problem that I see all the time is people saying, well, I'm just getting started, so I have no credibility or I have no experience. But there's actually a huge difference between you not having any experience and you're on day one versus someone else who still doesn't have any quote unquote experience. They've never worked with clients before, but they're on like month 6. They've been practicing, they've been grinding hard, they have mentors. You want to hire the guy who's been doing it for a couple months, even if he doesn't have any past clients. And what I'm trying to say here is that there are so many different types of credibility that you can use. For example, how long you've been doing it for, how much money you've generated for your clients, how many clients you've worked with before, the names of your clients, and if they're big as well. If you have any certifications, for example. So you want to make sure that you're using as much social proof as you can. Tip number 38 is the objection handling framework. This is how you write the strongest copy ever. Before you even start, you want to write down all the most common objections that people are going to have when they read your marketing. This is so you can actually address their objections in the copy itself. And this does two things. One, it shows them that you know what they're probably thinking. They're going to think, wow, this guy already knows what I'm thinking. It's like he's in my head. And two, it also overcomes that objection. So now they're going to be much more likely to take action. So for example, I have a list of objections that copywriters are probably going to get. Like, oh, this is too expensive. I don't want to have to babysit this guy and have to tell him how to write every single piece of copy that I ask him to write for me. I've tried copywriters before. Why don't I just use ChatGPT or AI to do it? So you want to address a lot of these in your sales process. Tip number 39 is email open rate optimization. So subject line is a huge part of getting the highest email open rates as possible, but there's also more to it than that. So for example, you want to make sure that the actual name that you're sending with is someone that they trust. So you want to use the CEO or business name or something that they would recognize. Next, you're going to want to be A/B split testing consistently so that you can see exactly what type of subject lines your list opens the most, because it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. And number 40 is the pattern interrupt technique. This is where you simply break expected patterns to grab people's attention. So for example, real estate agents are expected to say things like, I want to help you buy your dream home. But instead, you might say something like, your dream home doesn't exist. Why? Because dreams change over time. But smart investments last forever. So let me show you homes that will grow with your life and with your wallet. You want to make sure that when you say things like this, you have to be able to justify them. Tip number 41 is the lifetime value calculation, aka the LTV. This is the average purchase amount times the average frequency of purchases times the customer lifespan. In short, it is on average how much money people spend with you over time. And this calculation lets you know exactly how much you can spend to acquire a customer. Now, a higher LTV is of course better because it lets you spend more on aggressive marketing. Tip number 42 is the urgency creation playbook. So the first one is real urgency. These are actual time constraints or launch dates or anything that has a limited capacity. Next is implied urgency, which is while supplies last. This essentially just doesn't have a specific time frame connected to it. Then you have personal urgency, which is the consequences of waiting. So for example, the longer you wait to try to make money or lose weight or find a relationship, the harder it's going to be. So you want to paint a picture of what that would look like. But remember, false urgency is going to damage your trust with the people that you are selling to. So for example, don't say that we're going to run out of ebooks, because ebooks are a digital PDF that never actually run out. So don't use anything unless it actually is true. Tip number 43 is cross-sell and upsell strategies. An upsell is a more expensive product that is better but still related to the original purchase. And a cross-sell is a related product that complements the original purchase. Now, upsells are usually used after the first purchase decision, and that's because the buying temperature is the highest. Tip number 44 is the rhetorical question power. These are questions that make points rather than actually asks questions and looks for the answer. This is when you might use something like makes sense, right? After posing a question. This creates a mental agreement with the reader, making it a lot more engaging. The reader feels more engaged because you're actually talking to them and asking them a question, and people are just going to more likely believe what the conclusions that they come to rather than when you try to tell them things. So when you ask questions that have an obvious answer and you know what the people's answer is going to be, then of course it makes them believe what you want them to believe without you having to try to tell them or convince them. Tip number 45 is email retargeting strategies. This is where you target your ads or your marketing to people who have visited your site or visited your page but didn't actually buy. This is really easy to do in something like an email automation. All you have to do is segment by behavior. So the people who are opening your emails, visiting your pages, or have put things in their cart but didn't actually check out, you can actually keep marketing to them and they're way more likely to buy than people who have never visited before. Tip number 46 is using the intrigue building method. This is when you talk about a solution and drop hints about it without actually revealing it until the end. This keeps the audience hooked in and drives them crazy until they actually get to figure out what the intrigue or what the big point is. For example, if I told you there's a way to get premium high-paying clients without doing any cold outreach, without building a personal brand, and without applying to job boards. Now this creates a lot of desire because this is something you obviously don't know. So you're gonna want to know exactly what it is, but first, I'm gonna tell you why it works, how it works, why the old methods don't work, and then finally, I'm going to reveal to you what the actual method is. Tip number 47 is sales funnel psychology. A funnel works most effectively when you're tapping into these 4 keys. First is awareness, so your target audience discovers and realizes that they have a problem. Next is interest, they wanna start learning about solutions. Next is desire, they wanna learn more about your specific solution in your product because you've taught them that it's the next step into getting where they wanna go. And finally, action, which is where they are ready to buy. So you just have to match their messaging with the exact stage that they're in. Tip number 48 is the salesy substitution technique. This is where you make simple replacements to corporate salesy language with something that sounds a lot more personal. So instead of using purchase, we would use the word get. Instead of using our clients, you would say people that I help or people that we help. You would say enroll in the program rather than buy my course. And this change of language really reduces friction when people are at least thinking about buying with you. Tip number 49 is lead magnet psychology. This is where you solve one specific problem very well rather than trying to solve every problem that people have. Because you'll start to attract the right people with your lead magnet and everybody will be focused on one thing that you actually help with. And then you need to make sure that your lead magnet is something that doesn't compete with your paid content, because you need a reason for people to upgrade to the next level of whatever your value ladder is. Now, tip number 50, halfway through, is the angle development process. The same idea can be presented in a different way, and there are countless alternatives. And this is how you come up with an angle. And the tip here is to not use boring angles. See, everybody has used the angle before. You have to be disciplined and work hard to make money. And if that is all your marketing messaging consists of, it's going to be boring. But instead, you can use the angle, having a phone addiction can make you rich. And now the difference here is that you can actually back it up by saying you have to have the discipline to be addicted to your phone, but making money on it instead of consuming. You got to be a creator instead of a consumer. And just using this one small tweak is going to make the angle way better, which is going to make the marketing message just fresh and new and not the same as every single other thing out there. Tip number 51 is conversion rate optimization basics. So if you're testing certain things on a page, you want to make sure that you're testing one thing at a time. You don't want to change the headline, the CTA, and the VSL. Instead, you want to change one thing at a time so that you understand where your results are coming from. This is also something you can take across many different principles of marketing in general. Same with outreach, for example. A lot of people do outreach and then they completely change their messaging, who they're outreaching to, and then also what platform they're outreaching to people on. Whereas instead, you want to just change one thing at a time because this is the best way to test. Tip number 52 is the downsell strategy. And this is simply what happens when someone says no to the offer that is in front of them. And that's where most people just give up, but that's actually a very big mistake. When people say no, you can offer them something that's an even smaller price. And in this way, you're giving them options. So for example, if someone says no to a $500 product, then they might be open to hearing about your $50 product. Tip number 53 is to understand vanity metrics. Because the point is that most data online is completely useless. A lot of people focus on metrics like followers and views, but the problem is that you can't pay your rent with followers and you can't buy things with views. So you have to measure what actually matters most in your business. So if you're trying to make money, you have to understand the actual money-making data instead of just the vanity metrics. Tip number 54 is to be curiously familiar. This is one of my favorite psychological tricks. So this is where you take something that everybody knows and then you connect it to something that they really did not expect. Like the Elon Musk copywriting method or the Netflix approach to getting clients. And then people's brains immediately go to, what, Elon Musk has a copywriting method? And now they just have to know exactly what you're talking about. But again, you have to actually deliver on your promise. That's the thing with interesting angles, is that you have to be able to back them up and actually connect them to what you're talking about. So you better come up with some sort of copywriting method that Elon Musk is involved in. Tip number 55 is email flow optimization. Your email should read like you're having a conversation. It shouldn't be choppy. It shouldn't be too long at some points, and then other points weirdly short to where it feels like you're just reading vertically. For example, if you start reading out loud and it starts sounding robotic, then you know you already messed up. A very easy way to do this is to actually leave your email or leave your copy alone for a day and then come back the next day with a fresh mind. This is because when you're writing, you already know what you're trying to say, so you're not really reading it with an objective mind. However, you leave it alone for a day, you come back to it, and now you're gonna be like, well, who wrote this? Because you're gonna be coming at it with a fresh mind, so you're gonna be able to see it way more objectively and make just way better copy. Tip number 56 is the problem agitate solution system, aka PAS. Now, this is probably not only one of the most powerful copywriting frameworks that exist, but also one of the most popular. You will see it and notice it absolutely everywhere, especially after learning about it. So first, we start with problem. This is a very specific problem that your ideal client profile struggles with on a daily basis. For example, your emails that you're sending could be getting completely ignored. Then you agitate. This is where you twist the knife a little bit. You want to do this by doing two simple things. One, you want to describe how it shows up in their life. And then two, you want to tell them exactly all the bad things that will happen if they don't fix this as soon as possible. And then finally, you present the solution, which is usually going to be something to do with your product or whatever action you want them to take next. Tip number 57 is the value definition and creation. Because I'm just gonna be honest, most people have no idea what value actually means. Everyone says, give value so you can get clients, so you can get money, so you can get customers, but what is value? Because a lot of people have the wrong idea that value is the features that come with whatever they're giving, but wrong. It's actually the transformation and the change that people are able to get. Tip number 58 is the reply call to action method. So usually when people are sending marketing emails, they always ask people to click on a link. Click on a link, click on a link, click on a link. But what's also very effective is asking people to reply to the email with a keyword. So if you follow my Instagram at tyson.scales, you can see that I do this a lot. For example, reply with the word outreach and I'll send you my free outreach course. And there's a couple of reasons as to why. Sometimes replying feels like less of a commitment. Also, when people reply and you then send them the link, they just feel as though they're actually seen and heard rather than just another person who's on the internet and actually click a link. They feel a lot more personal. It also just gives a higher chance that people actually go ahead and consume the resource that you sent over to them. Tip number 59 is justification strategies. Because every single claim you make as a marketer needs to be backed up with irrefutable proof. You can't just say stuff like my method works or my method works because it worked for me. The thing is that online in 2025, trust is at an all-time low. So you need to take that into account. So in order to deal with people's skepticism, you need to be showing proof, examples, hypotheticals, give people analogies so that they can really understand why your method works and what exactly it is, why it's different, and all these things that will help them be inspired to take action. Tip number 60 is the unique selling proposition, aka the USP. Your USP is what makes you different and better in a way that your customer actually cares about. The easiest way to think about this is Domino's, for example. They have a guarantee that says if your pizza's not there in 30 minutes, then you get it for free. It's not about the pizza's quality or the pizza's taste or that it's made with the best ingredients. It's that you know exactly what you're getting when you're getting it. You get speed and you get reliability. So your USP should be something that your customers will actually care about and your competitors are not doing. Tip number 61 is eyebrow copy and deck copy. Eyebrow copy is that little bit of copy that's above the headline that gives you a little more context. And then the deck copy below the headline is what gives you just a little bit more detail. So again, don't overthink this stuff, but here's some of the things that you should include. Eyebrow copy is usually going to be used to qualify your audience. Who are you talking to or what are they struggling with? Deck copy is where you give credibility, you handle objections, or just give a couple more details on what is actually required or not required in order to make this work for you. Tip number 62 is the free value strategy. This is before you build trust before you ask for anything. And this is where you give something genuinely valuable to somebody for free. And a great way that I came up with this concept and understood how to apply it to my own business was reading this book by Gary Vaynerchuk called The Thank You Economy, where he's essentially laying out the fact that the economy that we live in right now is derived from gratitude. You actually giving people things and then them wanting to give something back to you. I've been able to incorporate this in my whole YouTube channel because of the insane amounts of free value that is out. Free 4-hour copywriting course, free 8-hour copywriting course, a free 16-hour course on how to become an online millionaire. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And by doing all of this, I've been able to create an amazing empire where I don't even need to ask people to buy anything. They just go ahead and go to the links in the description and look for something to buy. And if you're wondering how you can do this to get your own clients, it's very simple. You can give them something like a Loom video. A Loom video is a quick 5-minute video where you're recording your screen and also recording your camera. And you can show them how they can make more money, some new systems, some new ideas, some things that you use for your clients to make money. And then now, again, just like I was talking about with justifications, they don't have to trust you because you're already showing them what works and offering them something for free. And trust me, this works way better than just going to people and asking, hey, will you hire me? Tip number 63 is sales guard recognition and bypass. Everyone has this little mini invisible shield that they put up when they feel as though they're being sold to. Think about when you're walking the busy streets of Las Vegas or New York and someone comes up to you and says, hey brother, I love your shirt. Trust me, that person is trying to sell you something because there's so many people in these densely populated cities and there's a lot of people who are going to try to sell you things or also just scam you out of some money. And this is exactly what happens when you use very corporate type of language that triggers people's sales guard. But if you talk like an actual human being, you tell stories and you lead with value, then this is what's going to lower people's sales guard and get them to just trust you more. For example, you don't want to be one of those fake dropshipping gurus online who's riding around in a clearly rented Lambo saying, yeah, man, you have to buy my course, my dropshipping course, if you want to make money. It's like, yeah, okay, put the fries in the bag, bro. That's essentially your sales guard, or nice try, Diddy. Tip number 64 is the hook, story, and offer framework. Now, this is how you structure a very persuasive piece of content or copy that showcases a story that's going to relate with the reader and what they want. You want to hook them on something that grabs their attention. Then you want to tell a very short story that's still related to them. And then at the end, you want to give them an offer. And the reason why is because humans are hardwired for stories. They love to read stories, and stories are one of the earliest ways that humans have ever communicated. If you go look at an ancient cave where the cavemen used to dwell, what are you going to see? You're going to see some drawings on the rock, which are stories. Not only is it a great way to hook someone in, but it's also a good way to intrigue people because they want to know what happens next. Tip number 65 is landing page optimization. Now, a big problem that people do when it comes to creating a landing page is they think that it's more like a website. A website is where people go to browse around. Maybe they want to learn a little bit about you, about your product. Maybe they want to hear a little bit more about the story of your brand. And then maybe they want to look at your products, for example. Whereas a landing page has one product and one goal. The goal is to educate you on what the product is while, of course, getting you to buy or take action. Tip number 67 is marketing message development. Most people miss the fact that you can take the exact same service, tweak the messaging a little bit, and then unlock a whole new niche of buyers. Sometimes a small shift in how you frame the benefit is going to make a huge difference in who it speaks to. Tip number 68 is fears versus dreams versus wants versus roadblocks. So here's a breakdown on how it all works. On the far side, you have people's fears. This is the long-term things that are going to happen if they don't fix their problems. Then the short-term bad side is obstacles. What are some of the obstacles that are keeping them from where they want to go? Then on the short-term upside, you have desires. What are the things that they want? Then the long-term upside, you have dreams, which are what are the things they ultimately want to achieve? And if they overcome all their obstacles and fears, where are they going to be in the long term? So for example, someone's fear could be that they get stuck in a 9-to-5 job that they hate forever and never be able to actually have any financial breathing room at all. An obstacle is that they don't have any opportunity in their job or their careers, and they don't know how else they could make any money either. Their want is that they want either another way to make money on the side or another way to make money that actually lets them quit their job and make way more money doing something else. Then their dream is that they get to work when they want, whenever they want, if they want, and then they actually get to become financially free. And the reason why you need to know this is because different parts of your marketing and messaging are going to need to correspond with each one of these stages. Tip number 69 is the challenge, justify, and need framework. This is where you start with a statement that challenges what a lot of people already believe. So for example, in order to make a lot of money with copywriting, you don't need high-paying clients, you need low-paying clients. And now you have their attention because that doesn't make any sense. But again, you better be able to back it up with some sort of solid reasoning. And a reasoning might be that a lot of beginner copywriters with no clients yet go after these huge deals where they're trying to charge $3,000 or $5,000 per month, and they haven't even had any small clients yet. And then that reasoning would be the justification, or the J part of the framework. And then finally is where you give them the need. So if you want to learn how to get your first starter clients in the next 7 days, then I'll show you how. So click here to watch this video, for example. Tip 70 is email list building psychology. Look, people are so guarded with their emails these days. It's like Fort Knox. And the reason being is because so many people are spamming people's emails with these useless messages of just trying to get people to buy their stuff. In short, your email is like a personal space. You go there for important conversations with important people. So if you're trying to build an email list, you better make sure that every email that you send is actually extremely valuable. On top of that, it all starts with the lead magnet, which is how you get people into your list. You want to make sure that that solves one specific problem for your ideal client profile, rather than just solving a bunch of problems for a bunch of different people. Tip number 71 is the anticipation roller coaster technique. This is essentially how you keep people hooked through content. It's very, very simple. You build anticipation, you show them the payoff, you tease that they're gonna give it to them, and then finally you do. And you wanna picture it just like a roller coaster, where you're coming up over one of those huge hills, and you're anticipating what it's gonna be like to finally fall and to do all the loops, and you're seeing all the things that you're going to go through, and that's what actually makes it exciting. When you're slowly going up that hill, that's when the anticipation is climbing. Tip number 72 is understanding cost effectiveness versus profitability analysis. In short, don't just hyper-focus on what you're spending, focus on what you're also getting back as well. And the reason why is because sometimes the most expensive option is actually the most profitable option. And then also sometimes cheap is expensive. For example, if you go to the store, get a really cheap pan, and then it breaks or stops working after a week, then you have to get another pan after that. Well, that would actually cost you more over time than just getting one really good high-end pan at the end of the day. And the same goes with marketing and investing in yourself. A lot of the people that you know that are making tons of money are also spending tons of money on their business as well, but they are spending it in the right places. Tip number 73 is the problem unaware strategy. So for example, if people do know that they have a problem in their lives, but they don't really know how to fix it, or they don't really see it as a big enough problem to fix in the first place, then it's your job to help them realize that they have that problem, that is actually a big problem, and exactly how to fix it as well. And the reason why this is so important is because you want to educate people before you try to sell them on anything. For example, if you are a nutritionist, you have to educate people on things like calories in versus calories out, or that just fad diets or being on paleo or being on a vegetarian diet doesn't work because of the foods itself. It works because of calories in and calories out. And once people do understand this, now they're more ready to buy from you rather than just thinking that the key to weight loss is some sort of sleep trick or it's about eating some sort of food. Tip number 74 is segmentation for personalization. And the reason why is because not everyone in your email list is the same person. Everyone is actually completely different. They came onto your list different times for different things as well. So my advice is to just start simple. Segment your list by buyers and non-buyers. So people who have bought from you before and people who have never bought anything from you ever. Then you can get more sophisticated on who exactly your audience is. For example, the people who have clicked in the last 70 days, or the people who haven't opened an email in the last 3 months. And when you segment by these sorts of things, you can figure out who's actually going to open my emails and who's not going to open my emails so that you can increase your deliverability like we talked about earlier. Or if you have a new product coming out, you might want to be sending those emails to the people who have already bought from you before because the chances of them buying are way higher. Tip number 75 is the disruption pattern interrupt. And the reason why is because every industry has expected patterns. For example, when it comes to copywriting, everyone wants to tell you, I'm going to show you how to land premium copywriting clients, or copywriting is the greatest. But I might say something like why most people will never land premium copywriting clients, or why copywriting isn't actually the best way to make money. It's copywriting and email marketing, or copywriting and digital marketing on the side as well. This makes people instantly stop scrolling because it's something that they just didn't expect to hear. Tip number 76 is competitive analysis. Now, the key here is to not just copy what all your competitors are doing. You want to actually study them and focus on what they're not doing, all the gaps in their marketing that they could be doing better. Maybe it's the type of person that their content is targeting. Maybe it's their messaging. Maybe it's their offer. And that is exactly where you come in. Sometimes their biggest weakness can be your biggest strengths if you know how to position yourself correctly. Tip number 77 is the reciprocity principle. Now, this is very basic human psychology, but when someone does something nice for you, you automatically want to do something back to even the playing field and make sure you guys are square. One of the reasons why it feels like this is because no one likes to feel like they owe somebody else anything. So if you hold the door open for somebody else, they're going to want to hold the door open for you sometime as well. And this is why it's so effective to give out free things or things at a very low cost, because when people spend a little bit of money with you or a little bit of time with you and they actually get a payoff, then they're going to be more likely to spend a lot of money for you so that they get a way bigger payoff. Tip number 78 is multi-channel consistency. Because your core message should be the same everywhere across all platforms. But the key is that you have to adapt it to each platform. For example, the way that you talk on a 1-hour YouTube video is going to be way different than the way that you talk on a TikTok. And different channels are actually going to catch different people as well. So someone might check out your YouTube, then they might go to your Instagram, and then they might finally go on your email list. And if your messaging is completely different everywhere, then they're going to get confused. And of course, confused people do not buy. So you want to make sure you're always reinforcing your key points. Tip number 79 is the objection prevention strategy. So this is where in sales, instead of just waiting for objections to come up, you actually handle them before you expect them. And this can be used in marketing as well. It's kind of like reading their thoughts before they even know that they're thinking them. So for example, if I were to say in a video, you're probably thinking this sounds too good to be true, or you've probably heard someone say this before, or you're probably highly skeptical of what a lot of people are saying online. Tip number 80 is the emotional versus logical appeal balance. So here's how people actually buy. They buy first with their emotions and then they justify it with logic. This is why literally every product you're ever going to see online says something like 20% off, 50% off, even though that is the regular price. People will go and increase the price and then still say 20% off. But on the other hand, just because it's on sale doesn't mean that people are going to buy. They still want to emotionally buy it first. So the conversation in their head might go, oh man, I really want that one thing. Oh, I should get it. No, I should probably think about it. Oh wait, it's actually on sale for 20% off for the next 4 hours. Well, this is the perfect time then. I have to think about it. Think of it like this. If you were to justify the purchase to someone else who thought you didn't actually need that thing, you would say, oh, well, it was on sale and I had to get it right now. If I got it later, it would have costed me more. Now, the other part of this is understanding that people in a business context, so business owners, for example, are going to need to be sold logically a lot more than they are going to be emotionally, and vice versa. People who are just beginners, they don't really know anything yet, and they're younger, they're going to buy more with emotions than they are with logic. Tip number 81 is the authority building ladder. A lot of people know what authority building is, but they don't know that there's actually 3 different ways that you can increase authority. The first is borrowed authority. This is where you work with someone else who has a lot of authority, so then you kind of get authority rubbed off on you. For example, whenever you go to somebody's personal profile and it says as seen in Men's Health, for example, you know Men's Health is a magazine that you see at the store every single day. So if they've done an article on this person, now it looks like they're actually official. Demonstrated authority is when you show off your results, your case studies, and testimonials to other people. This is going to be the most important one to build long term because it's actually you. Earned authority is when other people in your field recognize you as an expert. This is the hardest to get, but also the most powerful. For example, if The Rock went on stage one day and he was like, yeah, I know this awesome copywriter dude, and his name is Tyson 4D, then that would be awesome. But it's pretty difficult to get The Rock to acknowledge you. Tip number 82 is timing and frequency optimization. Because when you send a message is almost just as important as what message you send. But here's the thing, there's no universal best time because first of all, 9 o'clock for me is way different than 9 o'clock for you, depending on our time zone. So you're gonna have to pick which time works best for your email list or your audience. You also want to test things like different days. Maybe your audience is way more active on the weekends than they are in the middle of the week. Tip number 83 is the new and shiny appeal. People love new things. And the reason why people love new things is because 1, they're exciting, and 2, because it's new, people think that it will just work better than all the old stuff. So for example, if there's a product out there that you've tried it 100 different times, you've tried 100 different products to solve this one problem and none of them have worked, well, when something completely brand new comes out, you have much more faith in that brand new product because it has nothing to do with all those old products that you tried that didn't work. So whenever you're building something in the marketing, make sure you try to make it seem as new as possible. Tip number 84 is risk reversal strategies. Look, most of the time when people don't buy from you, it's usually not because they don't like what you're selling or they don't want it. It's simply because they're scared of making the wrong decision. So you want to take the risk away from them. Money back guarantees, free trials, satisfaction promises. This is where you take the risk so that they don't have to. And in this case, you can make saying yes psychologically easier to them than saying no. Tip number 85 is the pain versus pleasure motivation. So the only reason as to why people do anything is to avoid pain and go towards pleasure. But there's actually a slight preference for avoiding pain. It's just how our brains are wired. So think about leading with pain points as much as possible. But that comes with a little disclaimer. You don't want to overflow people with pain. For example, if someone's struggling with their weight, you might say, hey, have you been struggling with your weight? Have you tried all these diets? Do you hate it when you look in the mirror and you just look like a fat slob and you're just disgusting and you make yourself sick to your stomach? That's an example of twisting the knife a little bit too much to where people are going to leave the page because they get it. They have the problem, you're relating to the problem, but also you don't want to just make them feel like it's hopeless. You want to add in a little bit of promise in there as well. So a couple sentences in, you could say something like, that was me, or it's not your fault. A lot of people have been trained to think this way. Number 86 is customer journey mapping. This is where you map out everyone's first touch point to last touch point in their business. So what does the customer journey look like? Where do they find you? Where do they go to learn more about you and about what you teach and about what you show? And then finally, where is it that they will probably end up buying? When you have all of this information, you're able to make each point as frictionless as possible. And what that means is if you are sending somebody a link and it's taking them somewhere else, then they got to go to another page and another page, then they got to do 5 more actions in order to get where they want to get to so that they can buy, that is a lot of friction. However, if you can make it as easy as possible, meaning 1 click to go to the page and then 1 click to buy, for example, then this is going to cause you to get way more sales because it's as frictionless as possible and you understand and have optimized the customer journey map. Tip number 87 is the curiosity value loop. Now, in copywriting and marketing, there's a great way to actually get people to stay until the end of whatever you're doing, and it's called an open and closed loop. So when you open a loop, it's when you give them something that's intriguing. For example, here's how I was able to get clients using Snapchat. And that's really interesting. Now, before you close the loop, you have to open another loop. This way, when you close the first loop, the second one actually keeps them watching. So for example, I closed a client through Snapchat, and then I was able to scale a $1,000 client to a $4,000 client. Now, the way that I got clients through Snapchat is I use Snapchat stories, for example. I mean, this isn't a real story, so it's hard to come up with a justification. But now that I've closed the first loop, the second loop is open, and that's the reason why you're going to watch next. You want to know how I turned that $1,000 client into a $4,000 client. Tip number 88 is social media psychology for businesses. So different platforms have different ways that the game are played. For example, on X, you want to make very short punchy micro blogging tweets so that more people get attracted to whatever it is that you're doing. But on Instagram, you want things like shorts, and you also want to take advantage of things like carousel posts and stories as well, because those are big on Instagram. TikTok is something similar, but then on places like Facebook, people are looking for connections, they're looking for friends, they're looking for people to meet, and they're gonna be reading your posts and looking at your videos. So every social media platform is just a little bit different. And being able to crack one and actually really figure out what makes it tweak and how to grow on it and how to make money on it is huge. So the takeaway is don't just copy and paste whatever you do on one platform and think it's gonna work the same on a different platform. Tip number 89 is the scarcity creation playbook. Real scarcity is when you have an actual limited amount of spots, of time, or things. For example, I can only take one client call this month because I am so busy with making the 16-hour free course, for example. That's genuine because people can feel the difference. They know that I'm doing the 16-hour free course, so I'm super busy, and I genuinely only have one call to do for the whole month. So whatever you do, don't fake it because it really hurts your credibility. I've seen $50 per month courses say, we're gonna increase the price to $200 a month, we're gonna increase it. 2 years later, nothing happened. And then when they did finally increase the price, they didn't increase it to 200, they increased it to like 100 or something. And of course, I'm not complaining that they didn't charge people more, but it's the fact that they said they were going to do something over and over again, and they really didn't. So it really took away from their credibility. All right, now we're down to the last 11 tips that are the highest sophistication, that are the most advanced marketing tips of the whole video. Tip number 90 is retention marketing strategies. Here's what a lot of people get wrong. They spend all of their time trying to get new customers when it would be far more beneficial to keep the customers that they already have. This is why it's so important to actually have a good product. Gone are the days where you can have exceptional marketing, but your product is just dookie. Your existing customers already trust you. They've already paid you. So if you get them a payoff, then they're much more likely to pay you more in the future. So you want to make them feel like they're part of something bigger than just a transaction. You want to make them feel like they are part of your business. This is why it's so important to, actually care about the people who buy from you. Because at the end of the day, their success is ultimately going to be your success. Tip number 91 is the contrast principle. So people don't make decisions in a vacuum. They make decisions by comparing their options. So that's why you need to show them the clear contrast between what you're offering and what else is out there on the market. What do the other guys do that we don't do? What do the other guys don't do that we do? You want to make those contrasts obvious and significant. And again, you want to make sure that you are the obvious choice. Tip number 2 is the psychology of micro commitments. So whenever you want people to make commitments to taking an action, commitments to consider buying something, you first want to make them make micro commitments. These are smaller commitments that are easier to make. So for example, would you agree that getting more clients is important? They would say, yes, of course it is. Then you could ask them, would you agree that having a proven system is better than just winging it? And now when you present your solution, it might feel like a more natural next step. But however, if you were to try to get them to commit right off the bat, then of course that's going to be much more difficult to do. Tip number 93 is the compound effect in marketing. So this is the power of small improvements compounding over time. We're talking about 1% better every day leads to 37 times better at the end of the year. It's not super intuitive, but the math is real. It does check out. Most people want these really big breakthroughs overnight when they just make one change. But what they don't understand is the power of just getting 1% better on a daily basis. And this applies to everything. Your email list growth, your content creation, you outreaching to clients, because small, consistent action lead to extraordinary results over time. Tip number 94 is the belief shifting framework. Before someone buys your solution, they first have to buy the problems, and they first have to be educated on exactly what's going to fix their problems. On top of that, they need to actually believe that their problems are fixable and they can get to where they want to go to. This is why it's so important to address everyone's limiting beliefs very early on. For example, I thought I was too old to learn this stuff. I thought I would need some sort of previous experience. I thought I would have to be from XY country. And this is where things like testimonials come in handy, because you can just show other people doing exactly what they want to do and it working for them as well. And also show things like really good reviews. Tip number 95 is advanced personalization strategies. So for example, opening up an email by saying, hey, first name, is essentially like kindergarten level personalization. And if that's all you're doing, you're missing out on a ton of personalization, which actually makes people feel like you're sending the email directly to them when you're doing email marketing. For example, action-based personalization. Hey, I saw you downloaded my last free template that I sent out. Here's a follow-up template that you might find valuable as well. And then this makes people feel like, okay, you're actually looking at me, watching me, seeing how I interact with your brand. So it just feels more personal. And again, people are only going to buy from you if they know, like, and trust you. And that's exactly what that builds. Tip number 96 is the trust equation in marketing. So here's how trust actually works in marketing. Trust equals credibility plus reliability plus intimacy. And that is all divided by self-orientation. So for example, credibility is your track record and your expertise. Reliability is how consistently you deliver on your promises. And intimacy is how safe and understood people feel when they interact with any of your content or your brand. And of course, self-orientation is how much it seems like everything you do is about yourself and your own gain rather than helping them. So when you optimize the first three and then minimize the last one, you're going to get the best possible results. Tip number 97 is ethical usage of all these psychological tips. Look, a lot of the stuff that I've been talking to you about today is very, very powerful and will get people to buy your stuff. But there's a caveat, there's a disclaimer. And that is that the harder you go at marketing and at making money, the more it's going to cost you long-term. So I'll put it this way. Your email list is something like a bank account. Now, what a lot of people do is they try to draw from an empty bank account. And you fill that bank account by actually giving value and actually giving goodwill. So you want to build that know, like, and trust factor. And every time you ask, you diminish it just a little bit. So my point here is to optimize for the long term and not just the short term. Don't just try to see how much money you can get this month. And this month got to be the biggest month. And this month got to be the biggest month. Think about quarters. Think about years. Think about decades. Because that's the goal, is being in the game for the rest of your life. Tip number 98 is the network effect in business. See, in business, your network literally determines what type and how many opportunities you are going to get. I've had clients refer me to other 8-figure clients, and I've been able to get really, really good copywriting deals from that. And also just people who buy from me in general, or people who watch my content, always tell other people about my content and about my products because they're all actually really good. Another reason as to why you want to not just focus on only marketing, but having amazing products as well. And the best thing about networking is that it compounds over time. The more people you know, the more people they know. And of course, you're just going to be exponentially growing your contacts and your network over time, but only if you actually put the effort into it. You want to build personal relationships with your clients, and you want to make sure you're going to things like business events to actually meet people so that you have all of these amazing opportunities. Tip number 99 is patience as a competitive advantage. Something that will give you a massive edge is to realize and understand and live your life by the fact that 90% of people are going to fail simply because they want it too early and they want it without having to work for it. Because the best results usually take time and effort in order to compound. Consistency over months and years is what ends up having you to actually win. For example, the 16-hour free course I just recorded and dropped. Most people are never going to do that because recording 16 hours of actually good information, getting it edited by editors, which cost me over $10K easily, having to purchase new employees to help you build the slides, help you create the content, and help you build all the resources. This stuff isn't cheap and it's very long term. I went into it with an understanding that it's only going to pay off after 6 months when it can finally be released. But I took on the project anyways, knowing that there would be no payoff and a bunch of work to do for the next few months. But again, it's all worth it when you put it into perspective. Now, tip number 100, probably most important so far, is the meta skill of learning. The reason why is because marketing tactics change every single day, while marketing principles stay true and stay the same over time. And that's why it's so important to always have a continuous learning mindset. There's new platforms that emerge, new algorithm changes, new methods, new tactics, new ideas. But as long as you understand the underlying principles, not only of marketing, but of business as well, you will never go hungry. I just gave you 100 marketing tips that are worth more than a $100,000 marketing degree. Now, if you want to put all these tips into action and start making money as soon as the next couple of weeks or months, then I have the free 16-hour course on exactly how you can do just that. I just dropped it a couple of days ago now. So go over there and consume that and put everything that I've just taught you into use so that you can start making money or make more money than you currently are as soon as possible. Anyways, guys, that's it for today. And of course, I'll see you guys on the next one.